Bitcoin was always being thought of as a store of value, but there's really so much more that you can do with the network and with the asset itself now. Bitcoin is becoming more and more like a software as a service. It's becoming more like a programmable blockchain, and that's quite exciting to see because since the network's inception, Bitcoin was always limited because of its programming language. It was always limited in what it can do. It doesn't have any programmable functions. It can only serve or support simple payment transactions. But this is now changing with the new generation of scaling solutions that have been coming to the market quite recently. But more importantly, the reason why this became relevant over the last year is that we saw, for people who haven't been around for quite some time, Ethereum, at its very early days, it had an application called CryptoKitties, which is, for lack of better purposes, it was a bunch of digital cats that you were nurturing as a fun and an entertaining game. But this really pushed the limits of what can be done on Ethereum because the transaction fees soared to more than $100, and the network was super slow. And we saw a very similar experiment last year. We saw that suddenly people were experimenting with new standards, things that were called either runes or were called ordinals. To simplify, you were able to trade tokens and you were able to trade NFTs not directly on top of Bitcoin. Of course, these are experimental standards. They're not officiated yet by the community, but they were a new way to see what else can be done. This resulted in the transaction fees of Bitcoin going to more than $150 and $200 at a certain point, and it really clogged the blockchain. This was happening all throughout last year. So this really catalyzed and reignited the interest in developing a new landscape of scaling solutions that you guys can see here in front of you. And as you can see from March of 23, this was the peak of the network congestion that the blockchain started experiencing. And from that point forward, we can see that this activity started surging bit by bit until really it kicked off this year. We don't have the time to get into what all of these scaling solutions are, but for lack of, or to simplify, just like Ethereum had its moment in 2020 with a plurality of scaling solutions that now are outpacing what Ethereum can actually do, like most of the activity on Ethereum is happening on its layer twos or on its scaling solutions. We're seeing the same experience here happen on top of Bitcoin. The first and foremost, or the legacy scaling solution is called Stacks. For people who have been joining us in the previous analyst calls, we've talked about it quite a lot. It's the oldest and the most battle-tested one. It just had its new upgrade a few weeks ago, and it essentially, the scaling solution is now much more aligned with Bitcoin in the sense that whatever transaction that happens on top of Stacks, it's backed by the security of Bitcoin. And also because Bitcoin has a really long block time of 10 minutes, meaning that you have to wait at least 10 minutes before a transaction is finalized. With Stacks, this is now down to 10 seconds. So it's almost a 99% reduction. And this is really incredible to see. As I was saying, there's an explosion of other scaling solutions that are emerging on the market right now. This is, by the way, not all of them, but just to give you a glimpse of how much the rate of progression has materialized. We finished this report, or we finished the writing of this report almost a month ago, and we saw that the TVL was up to almost 1.7 billion. Right now, the total TVL on top of Bitcoin has reached $3.3 billion. So we've seen almost close to 70% increase in TVL in less than 2 months. So that should give you an idea about this is going to be the new frontier for development and for experimentation that isn't really well known in traditional finance and then the traditional in the TradFi space. But this is definitely something that is happening here in crypto, and we always try to keep you guys ahead of the curve. So this is something that you should definitely keep your eyes on.